A lot of people believe that to start a successful business, you need money. I am totally against that. One thing I've realized, especially in the journey of chasing the bag, is that anybody that has ever gotten the bag always has a spiritual backing. Some of them is Jesus. Some of them it's some other thing. If you're not growing as a founder or as a business owner, your business cannot grow. Simply because you can only think to the extent to which you already know. We don't really hold a lot of these brands to these high standards. Look at our cinemas, for example. For like last 5-6 years, they look the same. No improvement.
You organized TedX Mokola last year. How did that came to be?
TedX is primarily an event that brings people together to share ideas. The X there means independently organized. People that are using AI now, they are leveraging it the wrong way. Pretty much any industry you find yourself, you can leverage AI.
The people that AI can replace are people that don't know their craft.
I believe wealth is not just physical cash. It's also people.
It's people.
The moment you are very good at what you do,
and you are sure,
don't be afraid to charge. Trust me, there are people that can pay for those services.
How do you balance life, work, everything with fatherhood?
I think the balance is a myth. There is really no such thing as a perfect balance.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Kingly podcast. It's so delightful to be here again today. Today's episode is something I've really been looking forward to. I have a friend in the studio, a very creative friend, Somidotun Olukehinde. Am I right with your
name? Well, you're right.
Yeah, fondly called Somidee. He's here with me in the studio today, and we'll be having this conversation, around a couple of things: entrepreneurship, about transitioning from just being a creative to being an entrepreneur. I'm going to talk about journey of growth, discovery, trial and error. He's going to share a couple of things with us. So, welcome to the studio. Welcome to the Kingly podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you here today.
I'm happy to be here.
We've been seeing a lot of work you've been doing, across board. Just in few words, I want you to introduce yourself to our listener.
Hi everyone. My name is Somidotun Olukehinde, popularly known as Somidee. And I help to grow brands using the power of media and branding particularly. I mean, that's more of the simplified way I can approach it. So I work with businesses, I work with founders, I work with both small businesses and larger organizations to grow their brands using the power of media and branding. Thank you very much.
All right. So good to have you here.
Really. Likewise.
And I remember the first time we met, that should be about how many years ago? I think about 4. I think
more than 3 years ago.
Yeah, about 4 and all that.
Yeah.
And when we met, one thing that was I saw that we had in common, we're creative. You're a creative designer, and over the years I've seen you doing a couple of things. They're big things. Let me use that word. I saw a post you made on Instagram about restaurant.
Yeah.
All right. So it was funny because I never thought in that line before. I saw a perspective you shared around brand strategy, how that is important for brands to, have more like, a professional strategist to advise you, to, give guidelines and all of that. And so you mentioned how that there's a need for brand consistency and all the likes. So I want you to, tell us more about that. Talk about it.
It all started from shawarma, honestly. It started from shawarma. And what happened? I think there was a brand that I liked a lot that I've been getting shawarma from. I don't want to call the name of the brand, just to not, bash the brand as such.
Yeah.
And then I referred someone else to get shawarma from that brand. And the person told me the experience was bad. I was like, okay, probably it was maybe a little mix-up that happened. Then the person said he referred someone else to get from that same brand. And it was, it wasn't so good as well. Now, it reminded me also of a particular brand as well that I don't even buy from anymore. It's a very big brand. Like I said, I don't want to mention names. Right. And they also had that challenge of me recommending someone, and either the person eats it at the site and it looks good,
Okay.
then a person buys takeout and it doesn't look as great.
Wow.
And it calls for business owners,
Yeah.
founders to pay attention to what their procedures look like.
Yeah.
It's 2026 and it's somewhat easy to start brands, in a way. A lot of people think the moment they have money, they can start brands.
Yeah.
And undoubtedly, you can build up a business to an extent with just money. But at some point, it's not really about the money anymore.
Yeah.
Do you understand? It's a call for, founders, entrepreneurs to also, learn more about what makes businesses grow. And one of those things is, the branding. And when I say branding, it's not just in the logo design. Branding has different arms. There is your consistency, there is your customer service, there is your identity and other things like that. And just to be anchored to the question you're asking, this is about consistency. There's something we'll call standard operating procedures, which is something, especially restaurants should have. Now, there are certain restaurants in Ibadan that do this very well. I mean, shout out to brands like Nature Street, brands like Better Jollof. Well, I like these brands, that's why I'm giving them this free shout out. No matter how much you buy from them, the recipe is consistent, especially Nature Street. I love buying from them. It's consistent.
I think we've met one time like that.
Yes, at Nature Street. Exactly.
Good.
So it's very important that you make sure that your taste is consistent. Now, I'm talking about foods like, pastries like shawarma especially, right? I know these things, they feel so easy to make. But when you are building a brand, right, you should make sure that you add a level of consistency to it so that you're not caught in the trap of, oh, I can't recommend this brand for you. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So I think it's just a call for founders to, learn more about, standard operating procedures. Even if you do not know how to do it yourself, you can engage a consultant, like a food consultant. They can talk you into, okay, this is how you can make a standard operating procedure for this particular meal. You have a recipe for this. So I think if they embrace that more in Ibadan, right, it's going to help to, we're going to have more consistent, meals because, of course, if you send influencers there, sometimes they'll patronize just once. But if you're someone that's patronized a couple of times, then you begin to notice the disparity that, this is not really aligning. And another thing about Ibadan is, Ibadan people, I don't know, to an extent, I don't know what it is, but we don't really hold a lot of these brands, to these high standards, right? In fact, this goes like way deep. I could talk about this for a moment. It goes way deep, even down to our cinemas. Look at our cinemas, for example. For like last 5-6 years, they look the same. No improvement. In Lagos, I can notice some improvements. We are having more recent cinemas, but in Ibadan, it's just like bland, just the same. I don't want to call the name, but we know the cinemas we have in Ibadan. But they are not improving. There is it's not elevating in any sense. And I think it's because people don't hold them to these high standards. A lot of Ibadan people don't complain. They don't tell you that, oh, this is how it's supposed to be here, this is how it's supposed to be. But anyways, I think it's just something that, founders can make some improvements on.
Oh, great. Wow. That's so profound. I think from what you've mentioned, one thing that also relating on a personal story, my experience in business and stuff, that's one thing that leads to customer loyalty, because when they see consistency in your service delivery, people can vouch for you anywhere. Like you mentioned, people don't hold those brands responsible for all of those actions. And I think it's something that, like you mentioned, every founder needs to pay attention to. There has to be operating procedures and stuff. So the question I want to ask also from that is, how can businesses, in terms of, maybe it can be professional, not exactly having commodity or all of that, how can they adopt that kind of approach in their processes?
Okay, all right. Thank you for that question. I think one thing that I'm probably going to still talk about a lot, especially in this conversation, is training. You see, a lot of people believe that to start a successful business, you need money. And I am totally against that. I think money plays a part. But apart from just having money, there is a part of you getting trained properly. And, I know not everybody wants to go through that rigorous process of getting trained and all other things like that. Look at, for example, the CEO of Fastest Cakes, that's Mr. Davis, right? He goes to a lot of trainings. I mean, I follow his page. He drops, those he has gone to business schools, he has gone through different certifications, and I mean, you will see those things in his brand because he leverages data a lot to make his decisions. Right? Shout out to him. He leverages data to make his decisions, and I think founders should adopt that, because if you're not growing as a founder or as a business owner, your business cannot grow. Simply because you can only think to the extent to which you already know. So the more knowledge you acquire, right, the more you can actually grow your business. And if you know that you don't want to go through rigorous training like that, you can engage a consultant. Right. That's what I talked about in that video. You can engage a consultant. So a consultant would help you. The consultant will have seen those things ahead of time. So when you engage a consultant, right, of course, a consultant doesn't remove the part of you, your personal growth, even as a founder, as an entrepreneur, right? However, it can help you speed up the journey. So the consultant will have seen a few loopholes ahead. It can easily tell you, okay, use this tool. Okay, this is the way you can manage this stuff and other things like that. So I think the training is really, really important.
Yeah, really important.
Yes.
So I think that also applies to, individuals, like as a professional, the need for you to also go for advanced training. True. Because we go a bit into it about the advent of AI and all of that. Some processes that are now outdated, things that has to just be automated, with the use of AI. So it's important that as individuals, for you to always examine, be innovative in your approach, and that's one of the things you mentioned about cinema in Ibadan and all of those things. Because that leads me to asking another question. Do you think environment also influenced a kind of a buying decision, a kind of because branding is the gut feeling. You get that kind of a thing. Like is what people say. Let me put it in a perspective. Is what people say about what they've seen. I'm just using it as just a perspective, right?
Okay.
Do you think what people say, the feedback people give, is also as a result of the kind of environment they are?
So if I understand you correctly, you're asking if people's feedback affects buying decisions, or are you saying if people's environment would affect their buying decision?
Ibadan.
Yeah.
For example, people's feedback. Maybe people don't want to be dragged. They don't want to. Oh, why am I dragging this business? Or why should I speak up? Or why should I say this? Or why should I be loyal to this?
Okay.
I don't know how you can balance that.
So okay. So let me answer it in the way I understand it. So now, we know Ibadan is Ibadan.
Yeah.
Okay, Ibadan is Ibadan. And of course, there's this general perception of who people in Ibadan are.
Yeah.
And, there is not as much exposure for the majority of people in Ibadan.
Okay.
Now, we have a few people that have gone to Lagos, that have traveled. They know what, top quality should look like. And I think what some of these other brands leverage is the naivety of people that are not very exposed. So they know that those people will not complain. So they just feel like, let's just give it to them in Ibadan. They will take it like that, in that sense.
Okay.
So I think the feedback also, it really does, the environment would affect the feedback, which is why, this is one of the reasons why I'm actually talking about this, simply because I want those brands to also be aware that their priority should not be based on, if the people there are maybe localized, they're not really exposed. So they just deliver low service quality and, likes of that. They should, take it as an excellent, trait that, okay, fine. If I'm putting a cinema here, right? For example, I don't want to call the name of the cinema, but if you're putting a cinema here, let me just make sure that it is one of the best quality. I could charge more for it or create a package where I can charge more for it. But let me just make sure that even if it can serve different sets of people, I know there is also going to be the argument of, if I elevate the cinema, for example, with maybe 100 million, 200 million naira, will people want to pay 10,000 naira per movie or 15,000 naira per movie? I assure you, certain people will. A lot of people will. People always say, some Ibadan people don't have money, would they pay and all? But I assure you, we have lots of people in Ibadan that have a good and a high taste for quality. And again, it's your contribution to the environment, to the society. I mean, it's always good. Someone has to set the pace for people to also know that quality can look like this. So you can't say, okay, because people here don't really rate quality, let me just do it the way I can do it, and they will just adapt from there. We have lots of brands in Ibadan that are doing top-notch stuff. Look at Nature Street, like I said, for example, and I can name some other brands that their stuffs are pricey, but we'll happily pay for it simply because it's good, it's top-notch quality. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, great, great. Thank you for adding more light to that. All right, so that's just on a lighter note.
right.
Now we're going a bit deeper into the conversation. There has been over the years the concerns around exports of talent, and that's why some of us have to, up our game to get gigs outside the country, and all of that, from Canada, US, and all of that.
Yeah.
All right, to get employers, poach some of talents here. I will have a couple of that. But recently, a conversation came up, particularly on Twitter and all of that. And I think the CEO of Money Point that mentioned how that we don't have. Let me just put it in a layman term. We don't have that kind of quality of talent in Nigeria. Like, it's not even exporting; it is now locally. Like, he can't get. People came back with feedback and all of that, different things here and there, concerns, emotions, and stuff. What can you say about that?
I mean, I saw the debate, although some people are saying, oh, it's a marketing strategy for Money Point. There was lots of opinions surrounding that. But in my opinion, right, I kind of agree. And, I've always had this thought that one of the major challenges in Nigeria is education. Right? Is education. And I'm going to explain why I say education is one of the major challenges. I think education is on so many levels. We have the most basic education, learn 1, 2, 3. We have the secondary education. We have the university education. However, most people assume that the education, that's the peak. Right? People assume that that's the peak of the education. Although I'm in the school of thought that there is still the education of innovation, which we do not have in Nigeria. You learning how to innovate. And sometimes most of those learning comes from, inspiration, which we don't have a lot of in Nigeria. Sometimes, especially if you're coming from a place of comfort, you have to have some kind of inspiration to grow. So say for example, people that grew up in comfort, right? And they have all the money they need. Trust me, most of them, what goes to their mind is they want to set up some kind of business somewhere. Probably a business that someone has already done. They would most likely not really have that disruptive mindset of, okay, fine, I want to do something entirely different. Because those things will come from, an education of innovation. Because I think even innovation can be taught. And we don't have a lot of that going around in Nigeria. We have a lot of, even for the average person, I don't really tell people how to spend their money. For the average person that probably hits maybe $1 billion or $2 billion, oftentimes you won't really find them trying to do something entirely different, trying to maybe invest in an institute of research and development and other things like that. And I think the people responsible for that is both ourselves as individuals and the government, because now they also have to set up structures that even individuals want to invest in. And even individuals also have to set up some of the structures by themselves, to when they identify this learning gap. Because trust me, if you are not inspired by something, you will not grow. You would realize that, unfortunately, most people that you see that are probably doing some very, very terribly amazing stuff, some of them, now I just say some of them, if you look at the background, they probably grew up in, some kind of home where they had to be really, really disciplined, right? Or it was tough. So they had to somewhat learn how to innovate, how to keep learning. So they had to somewhat build on that. And we can say it comes from a somewhat toxic culture where, if you don't read, if you don't grow in this thing, you'll probably get flogged for it. Or you probably, be beaten, or there's just some consequence. So people now develop that culture of learning, right? So when they grow up, it becomes like an habit. So when they grow up now, they know that, oh, I have to learn this. So it becomes a rhythm. But it's not like that for absolutely everybody. So I think that's one of the reasons why not a lot of people would have that instinctive tendency to just keep innovating, right? And that's what I think Nigeria needs. And if we can find a way to bridge that educational gap by teaching people more, how to innovate, how to, make sure you're learning stuff consistently. Because a lot of people, in fact, they're not really eager to learn. That's the thing. They're not even eager to learn. They are looking for the way the money will come in the fastest. And the moment they find that way, they just go into it and they're in straight up. So I think from my perspective, I think what will fix that is proper education, especially on innovation, and it's a responsibility from us as individuals and
Yeah.
from the government.
Yeah, wow. I'm in between, to be honest. I kind of, because I see from the spectrum of, we have talented people, Nigerians, that it's because of our environment that affects, that limits some of the chances some bright mind want to,
True.
express it and all of that. Then there is also the side of, as a business owner, I don't know how to balance that aspect. I get that concern, but I still feel like, we have, like you mentioned, we have that personal responsibility to be innovative, to take our destiny is in our hands, that kind of a thing. And a lot of people that get inspiration, they get to travel out. When you travel out, you get to see that actually the difference is clear. You get. So I think it's something we, as Nigerian youths, as our president put some time ago, we have lazy Nigerian youths, and I think it's a bit related to that. So we have work to do. So you may come from a background, you may come from somewhere that you don't have that fair advantage to get the right discipline on time, get the formal education that you get.
Yeah.
Because eventually it's not formal education that is most likely going to, save you. Let me put it that way. It's not just going to school, get certification and everything. It's still how you train your mind,
Absolutely.
get discipline and a number of things, and you know that, oh, I need to, develop myself and the like. So,
better.
yeah. So we have. I think the onus lies on us as individual, and the change has to start with us. How we approach things, and I think the point where we pick the conversation from that, restaurants, that kind of thing, getting the right operating procedure, then going back to individuals, start taking learnings and all of that, we're most likely going to affect things in the long run when we start,
Absolutely.
innovating our processes. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts,
Thank you.
or perspective on that. Yeah. So I'm going to also ask this, considering the kind of environment we are, to be honest. Today, as we're talking, the cost of fear and all of that. So, cost of production increase and a number of things. How, as an individual, how do you stay valuable? How do you ensure that you are valuable in the midst of the economy, how things are changing, how the cost of things increasing, how, like, a number of things we are, let me put, I don't just want to be speaking like we're at disadvantage and stuff, but how do you ensure as an individual, what can you say to the listeners that you stay valuable in the midst of whatever we experience?
All right. So thank you very much for that question. And thankfully, it ties back to all I've been saying.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm just going to reemphasize that. You see, wherever you're working, even if you're an employee or you're an employer, right, one of the best ways your value can increase is by your value actually increasing, right? And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. If you're working somewhere, if you're working at a particular brand, at a particular organization, and you're noticing that things are changing fast, AI is becoming, much more adopted and, likes of that, you need to learn.
Yeah.
You need to learn. You see, I talk about this a lot because it has helped me personally, and I believe it can help so many people. You need to learn. Like, you need to be shameless about learning. Like, you need to be obsessed with learning. You need to look at how fast the world is changing, and you need to decide you don't want to be left behind. Because a lot of times it's usually very hard. So, for example, you've been at a role for like 5-6 years and likes of that, and you're learning that, oh, AI is changing. Trust me, for pretty much any industry you find yourself, you can leverage AI. And especially for maybe boomers, even for some Gen Z, some of you are scared to just adopt AI because you're like, it feels technical, or what can I do with AI? But my recommendation always is to learn. To be very honest, that's what you can do. I mean, look at like 3-4 years ago, for you to create a decent website, for example, now in fact, you could use WordPress as like the easy part, right? Or you could easily do your front end, back end, which is like the difficult part. Now with AI, you can create websites in less than an hour. A fully functional website.
Sure.
Now imagine if you're still stuck at the front end side of making websites at the front end. Do you understand? That means you might still be making some money, but over time, maybe, and you've been there for 10 years, it really doesn't matter. Someone that is getting to the game for like maybe the first year would most likely outpace you
Yeah.
or out earn you.
Yeah.
Because now the person is saving time and the person can still get the job done just like you can get the job done in that sense. So my recommendation usually is to learn.
Yeah.
Right, don't be stuck, just learn something, look at what your industry is looking like,
Yeah.
and find a way to learn something that adapts to that your industry. Now I can talk about like the branding and media industry.
Yeah.
So I think that's just one way to go. Be obsessed about learning.
About learning.
Yeah.
It's very, very important. Yeah, of course, AI is not going to take over everything. It depends on how you can use it, right? But it's very important that everyone just leverage on learning.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are using AI now, and even down to what I'm talking about learning now.
Yeah.
You see, even people that are using AI now, some of them are even using it. They are leveraging it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Now, AI is not supposed to replace you thinking.
You thinking, yeah.
Right? Because I mean, I was having a chat with an influencer, a supposed influencer, and I was seeing her responses, and I just knew it was AI. You know those M dashes that come through.
Yeah.
You just know that this is AI.
Yeah.
And the point is, if you're not even learning properly, right, you will not even know that. If you want to use AI, it's fine.
Yeah.
But at least make it sound a little bit human.
Yeah.
And how do you even make it sound human? It's also by learning.
Yeah.
So don't just stop and say, okay, I'll just be using ChatGPT and all. Go to YouTube, learn about ChatGPT.
Yeah.
On ChatGPT now, you can even still add a memory to ChatGPT. You can even
Sure.
tell it to never use M dashes in your responses. You can do that. But if you never learn, if you are just satisfied with, I can just use AI and other things like that, you might even end up embarrassing yourself.
Yeah.
Because even AI can write projects, it can do a lot more things. But at the same time, you still need to know how to finesse those things, which is compounded learning. Nobody just knows it all of a sudden.
Yeah, sure.
It's the knowledge that compounds, that now makes it original. So it's leveraging AI, not just using AI in that sense.
Actually. That's why AI cannot actually replace human, to be honest.
Absolutely.
It can't replace human, except the redundant processes, people that also redundant in thinking, that kind of thing.
True.
So
but in some way, it could actually replace, it's already replacing some jobs. Trust me, jobs like UI and UX, right? Trust me, AI is already coming. Like, it's already at the door. It's already knocking.
Yeah.
Do you know about cloud design?
Yeah, sure. So that's the people that AI can replace are people that they don't know their craft.
Okay.
You get, because there's some level of, it is what you know that can ask AI to do for you.
Okay.
Like you just explained, the thinking, if I see them, yes, execution is now more faster, right?
Yeah.
Because of AI, right? So, but it demands some level of thinking, some level of strategy, some level of, management, for you to now, you have to move from the level, like you said, you have to move from the level of just being a UI or UX designer to now sit at, the thinking, the strategy, and all of that. So that's when you now AI
approaching
now
it from like a problem-solving perspective,
you get
not just using the tool.
not
but
just the
knowing how to
aesthetic,
leverage
and
the tool.
you understand.
That
You
makes
get.
a lot of sense.
Everybody has to be at the top of their game. Do you understand? Yeah. So I think that's something very important. If you continue, talking about it, there are a lot of things I'm very sure we'll be able to share from our different experience. There are some of my processes that are ready automated. I just know if I want to do this,
and it does that.
You get.
Absolutely.
So but I can't just go give me a logo.
True. You need to be very intentional about your prompt.
Yeah. So that's very important. I can't just client give me a brief. I just give all the brief to the Cloud or ChatGPT and bring out iterations and all that. It can give me iterations, but there are emotions that some of those brands communicate. So those are levels that I need to now work on. It gets so everybody
add the human feel.
You understand? So it's important that everybody just ensure that they learn and know where they need to adopt AI. So thank you so much. So we're going deeper to some level of personal story.
Okay.
What do I mean? Like when we started, I mentioned that I knew you as a designer. I knew you as a photographer at the point, right? So you still do like all of that encompassing. How were you able to transition from being a creative designer, photographer, to now become an entrepreneur? You do some real estate and all of that. So how can you connect that story and just share with us?
I started my journey as a creative designer and a photographer.
Yeah.
And that was when I was in school.
Okay.
I attended Federal University of Agriculture,
Okay.
Abeokuta. And, I worked with a number of brands at that time, even in school, organizations,
Yeah.
associations,
Yeah.
and types of that. And from then, I was developing an interest in visuals generally.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was easier for me to, overlay photography on it, being that I understood what design was,
Yeah.
overlay videography,
Yeah.
now overlay a number of other skills
Yeah.
on top of it. However, what connects everything together is communication, right? It's communication. Whatever you're doing, whether you're doing creative design, whether you're doing photography, whether you're doing videography, you are basically trying to communicate either an idea or you're trying to shape a perception.
Yeah.
And I think that generally took me into the branding space, and when I say branding, it's more like you're trying to shape an impression, like intentionally, the way people perceive a brand. And then graphic design, video editing, photography, videography, they just become a tool to use to that effect. And I mean, I gradually transitioned into branding and, eventually into communications. So for real estate now, I work with land, homes, and properties at the moment. And, I manage their communications, which has to do with working with a team of, designers, videographers, copywriters, and likes of that. So that's how my transition basically went. So it's not like I'm entirely disconnected from photography and videography. It's just that now they are just tools that I leverage. So I take photos. Man, I love taking photos, right? But now they are just tools that I leverage, to still achieve a goal. Like we established earlier on, the overall goal is problem solving, right? We need to be able to see the problem and solve. Whatever tools, whatever skills you have in your arsenal, whatever extra thing you're learning, they should just be to drive you towards that goal. So the more skills you have, the faster you can approach that goal. So for me, that has a number of those skills. When I'm working with people that are skilled in that aspect as well, it helps me to direct them, better, because I know what is feasible, I know what is possible. So I can easily say, okay, fine, do it this way, do it that way, and likes of that. So that's how it has been.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I was having a conversation with a friend some time ago. I'm like, okay, you can't just be passionate about solving problems. So you guys make money.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. Just looking at, okay, I know I'm a designer. So was it because you see that, oh, I can learn this more to make more money? Or I just want us to be real as much as possible, because I feel like there are some of our listeners that are more, the way this country is going, it'd be like say you need extra source of income and all of that to add to your arsenal and all of that. Was that part of the process? Like, I need to add this to make money.
Okay,
just balance it for us.
So when I started, I remember when I was in, I think that was probably SS3 or 100 level thereabouts. My dad got me a desktop, right? And that was where my, creative design journey started. I've always been the creative guy, right? I play a couple of musical instruments, right? So I've always liked the creative, explorations. And I remember the first project I worked on then was for a crush of mine. It was a crush of mine. And I changed a shirt. I think it was a green shirt. It was a blue shirt. Then I changed it to a pink shirt, right? And it was a very interesting project for me. That was like the first ever project I worked on. And I've always been someone that likes to learn individually. And I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I tried doing that, and then it became more like a hobby, right? So design started as an hobby, but as time goes on, like you said, one has to make money. And when I was in 300 level, I think that was when I started taking it a little bit more seriously, because of course, as time goes on, as you get more exposed, you see people making more money, and then what you're getting from home is now like, I think I need to do more. When you own a camera and you're like, how does it feel to own a camera of my own, right? So of course there's that part of, okay, now I actually need to start making some serious money. And I think for me, I can't deny the fact that I wanted to make money from this, and I had to somewhat learn how to make money from it. And this is why I talk about learning a lot, right? You see, you can be as skilled as as Michael Jackson, right? But if you don't know how to make money with your skill, that's a disadvantage for you.
Yeah.
So you need to also know how to make money with the skill that you have.
That's like the business side.
The business side of it,
craft,
which
yes.
is also, one major thing is negotiation.
Yeah.
That's one major thing.
Yeah.
Negotiation. You need to know how to negotiate, right? If you have the best skill, right? If you meet a very skilled negotiator, he can negotiate you out of you even believing that you are even as good as you are in what you are doing. So it still boils down to learning, right? That's something I did, and shout out to a lot of people that have been part of my journey of learning how to negotiate, learning how to price, those other things. So those are things that you need to pick up along the way, not just the skill. So the moment you have the skill, right? Of course, you have a portfolio.
Yeah.
Then at some point, you need to start learning how to price your services. Then after pricing, right? Of course, you can call your price. You can say when you want to do a website, and you say your website is 3 million naira.
Yeah.
And then someone comes and is negotiating with you, and he says, "Oh, how much do you want to pay for the price?" And you are saying, "Oh, website is 3 million naira." And the person is like, "Oh, it's so expensive." Oh, and the next thing you say is, "Okay, pay 2 million naira." Right? Of course, you've already even negotiated yourself down. By yourself, rather than waiting for the client to give a feedback.
Yeah.
So those are a few cues that people would notice, and they are like, "I'm not sure this thing is worth 2 million. Let me go down lower." And I'm like, "Okay, fine. I don't have up to 2 million. No, my budget is between 1 million and 1.5." And you're like, "Okay, we can do 1.2 million." You are still the one negotiating yourself all the way down. So now these are like subtle things that creatives should take note of when they are trying to price and when they are trying to negotiate what the services they are offering.
Yeah.
So I think with time, you need to learn how to also price. You need to learn how to negotiate, and those things come with experience.
Yeah.
They come with experience. Now, I could talk about the journey of like an average creative that starts a skill, which is you building a portfolio, working for free.
Yeah.
Getting some people to trust what you do. Then you can now start charging a particular price, because a lot of people get the journey wrong. They just learn a skill today and they want to start charging high prices.
Yeah.
Then they run into problems. Then of course they say, "Oh, the skill is not paying," because it was a one work wonder.
Yeah.
And after that work, they just stopped getting jobs and they got discouraged. So there's a process to it.
Yeah.
And I think don't be afraid to get a mentor. Don't be afraid to get a mentor.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to, to talk about your, will I say, ignorance, right? It's okay to not know something, because if you'll probably not do those things for a bit. The moment you are able to acknowledge your ignorance and you ask questions, trust me, you're going to learn how to do it better.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, awesome. That's cool. One thing that I recently started paying attention to in some of your contents and your speaking is, I think you're kind of passionate about selling. How do you like the art of selling, that kind of a thing? So I want to connect back to the last couple of things you mentioned. What were some early lessons or maybe mistakes that you possibly made or I learned from them that you want to share with us?
One of them would be the moment you are very good at what you do
and you're sure
don't be afraid to charge. Right? Don't be afraid to charge. There is really no humility in being the most affordable.
That's not even humility.
Yeah, some people think it's humble, like I'm very good and people are going to patronize me. Let me just charge this particular price. I will get more clients and other things like that. I don't think you should do that, especially when you already have a portfolio and you are very confident that you can actually deliver. Trust me, there are people that can pay for those services.
Yeah.
There are people that would willingly pay for those services. Now, you might not get as much, as much offers, but just like in business now, there are different models that you can leverage on. We have high margin, low volume.
Yeah.
So high margin, low volume products are like, maybe you're selling the website for 5 million naira and you're only getting like maybe 2 clients every 3 months.
Yeah.
Right? That's high margin.
Yeah.
And maybe your profit there is maybe like 80% and low volume. Now there are certain other models where you have high volume, low margin. So that's for maybe like shopping malls. You are selling stuff of maybe 100 naira and you're selling to like 1,000 people every day and other things like that. So now that's another model. We have some, it's very dynamic in that. I don't really want to get too deeply into that. But nonetheless, you understand your business model, right? Understand your business model and don't be afraid to charge. I mean, that's one thing about selling. It's all about the value, right? It's all about the value. And you also trying to, make sure you're selling to the right people. So I think that's one thing I would have, loved to have picked up, much earlier. And secondly, community. Community is an important thing. You see, I think it's good to also, interact with like minds, right? There's this thing that, people feel it's good when I'm isolated, nobody knows my secret and other things. So you're like the best kept secret. So I think it's okay to network with people in your industry, right? Because at the same time, it can inspire you, right? For example, if you don't know someone that is charging higher than what you charge right now, how would you be motivated to charge, that higher level?
Yeah.
You are probably going to think that, oh, I'm the one that charges the highest, until someday you just realize that, oh, this same website I'm doing for like, maybe $1 million naira, this person is doing it for like 10 million. And I'm looking at the deliverables and it's exactly the same thing. And the person is still getting clients and likes of that. So don't be afraid to like have a community around the things that you do.
Yeah, awesome. That's so cool. Have you ever charged that you felt, will these clients come back? Have you ever charged, like you gave a rate to a client,
absolutely.
and you're like, I'm not sure if this person will come back, and you start praying for the next 2 days.
For me, charging is fun for me, in a sense, especially when you're charging based on the service that you're offering. Right. That's one thing about services, and estimating the value, what it is worth to the customer. Right. I mean, there are times when I've wanted to, like, it's very comical when you want to charge for a service and you're like, okay, I'll charge 200K. Then you're like, let me just put 500 there. Then if the person negotiates, right? And I always recommend that, right? If you have a service, right, that you're trying to charge for, right, don't negotiate for the customer in your mind. A lot of people negotiate for the customer in their mind. It's much better to start from a high zone. Then you are now bringing it down. Down for you to now start from it, because just trust me, whatever you're charging, it tends to go lower. So if you're trying to charge a service and maybe what you charge I did is like 200K, right? Start from 500K. So then the person begins to negotiate, and maybe the person negotiates eventually to 400K. And also know how to negotiate, because if you're offering services, definitely there are people that you also have to buy from. And you have to make sure that you are getting the best prices as possible. So the moment you know how to sell, it also instinctively gives you the ability to also negotiate. So whenever someone is trying to negotiate you down, you are aware. And the moment you already know how to negotiate too, it helps you when you're trying to, get deals and likes of that.
Actually, one of the things I would just say is that, this thing doesn't come. That's why you can share your lessons, mistakes, and some of the things is that you gain confidence over time.
Absolutely.
So before you can call this price and I can't go down below. Within you know that the last project you did was not up to this, because there's something I normally do. I have my rate list. Once a client hits the highest of that rate list, I increase it immediately. I just do that. I just know that the next thing for me, I'm doing it immediately.
True.
Because there's just that level of confidence I gain, and it has happened over time. You get. So I think it doesn't matter where you are, like you said. You can be charging this social amount and another person. And that's why it's important for you to network. True. Sometimes you don't even need to hear from your colleagues this social amount. You can perceive when you see them, when you see the way they present their work, the way they present, what they do, the way they talk, the way they negotiate. You will be able to know, I can scale this person, I can put this person on this price.
And especially if you are confident in your work,
that is very important.
And you're confident that this can actually solve the problem. Because for some HNIs, it is not really about the price. It's about, can it solve the problem? And sometimes it's about the time. It's about the time. Like, oh, this guy builds website in like maybe 48 hours. And they're like, oh, I need a website tomorrow. So like that tomorrow, when you're negotiating with them, it's not based on, oh, what's the best price? It's like, are you sure you can get it done? How much is it? Then you call your price and boom, they get started.
That is very important, to be very confident in what you do. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much.
Before we go into the next session, still on area of lessons and story around business, being a creative and transitioning and all that, I put something down this way: timing, positioning, and discernment. How does these three things plays in all of these things we're sharing? How do you understand times? How do you understand like time and season, the way Bible put it, that kind of, and then positioning, and then discernment. Like how can those play together for your own advantage as a creative?
One thing I've realized, especially in the journey of chasing the bag, is that anybody that has ever gotten the bag, especially in the massive level,
Yeah.
right, always has a spiritual backing in some way.
Yeah.
Some of them is Jesus. Some of them it's some other thing.
Yeah.
Some of them is like some other deity
Yeah.
and like so that. And
Yeah.
that's because, as Christians, we also know that the spiritual largely controls
It
the
controls
physical.
the physical.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean that's like
Undoubtedly.
general knowledge
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
The spiritual always controls the physical. So one way or another, right? You need to have, personally for me, my recommendation is Jesus.
I'm
So
Jesus boy,
that
please.
yeah, that's my recommendation. That
Yeah.
and you need to be anchored in a sense
Yeah.
to him. You need to have that Christian community around
Yeah.
you because trust me, as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
it's hard sometimes,
Yeah. It is.
especially because you have to prioritize work.
Yeah.
You need to prioritize your spiritual life to make
Yeah.
sure that you are growing.
Yeah.
And communities definitely help that.
Yeah.
And now that can help you with your discernment.
Yeah.
Right? You can, because I mean, if you look at it ideally, I used to ask my friends, like, what are the chances that you'd make $1 million in your lifetime? Right? Statistically, probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, statistically, probably not.
Yeah.
But we know that we can do all things
Yeah,
through
through
Christ that
Christ who
strengthens
strengthens
us.
us, yeah.
And that's our confidence that we are going to get to it. And we don't do it because we probably already know how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But we just have that belief that it is going to happen. And you need to trust that you are going to be led in that direction, which is discernment.
Yeah.
Now, for timing, right? For timing, it's very important that, I mean, for you to be a Christian, for you to be a very good Christian, that means you must be someone that also studies.
Yeah.
I mean, inevitably, you must be someone that studies.
Yeah.
And studying also comes with you being smart.
Yeah.
Right? I don't believe you can be a very good Christian and maybe you are not so smart to an extent. I believe they work hand in hand, especially if you are within a Christian community. Right? If you know anything about pastors, about leaders, they're always very, very apt.
You know the way Bible puts it, that diligent in service. I mean, in business, serving the Lord, that kind of a thing.
True.
There has to be.
So you have to be apt, and that's why I talk about also learning.
Yeah.
When things are changing, when the atmosphere is beginning to shift, and you're like, okay, fine, looks like this is not what is reigning anymore. I need to innovate.
Yeah.
Trust me, inevitably, if you're a Christian, you will have that nudge.
Yeah.
So it now depends on how familiar you are with your spiritual side to know that, okay, fine, I need to do this. And the point is, it could come as a regular feeling because at the same time, I think, for anybody that's accepted Christ, even if you're not too much in tune with the Spirit, the Spirit is still there with you.
Yeah.
It just depends on how connected you are to listen.
Yeah.
Some people, it's coincidental for them, so they just know when they're supposed to do something. That's why you see people that you don't believe they are actually believers, but they are able to still, transition in quick time to when things are beginning to change.
Yeah.
And the thing is, as believers, we can also do that. But you also need to be very much in tune with it. And I make this example. I say, for example, now you are at a restaurant and you are maybe at a gathering and maybe you are a caterer and you've always been hesitant to go and learn how to make international dishes. And someone happens to be maybe in your space and maybe a guy is talking about, oh, actually the caterer that can do international dishes.
Yeah.
And all people I'm reaching out to in Ibadan, they don't know how to do those international, they just know how to do just normal rice and other things like that. Then, if to say you had keyed into learning that skill, it would have been an amazing opportunity for you. But simply because you've not learned that skill, it just feels like a regular conversation for you. That could have been a turning point for you, which is why, you see, when you are being led to do something, for example, you listen to conversations like this, and you have this nudge in your spirit that, okay, fine, I need to learn this thing. I need to find a way to learn this. Just do it. Simply because you never know when those opportunities would come. Because if you're not prepared for an opportunity, it will just be like a random conversation to you. Like people that you meet, if you're not skilled, right? Because now I think even when you meet people, right, undoubtedly, even if you're meeting people randomly, you'll find that there are opportunities, right? There are opportunities that lie with people, especially if you have the right skill that can, collaborate with such a person. But if you don't have any skill, meeting people will just be like regular meeting people.
Random.
You will not even really see anything that you guys can do together because you don't even have any skills. So you are meeting people, you are being in the midst of so many opportunities, but you can't do anything. So it's just more like you have the wealth going around you because I believe wealth is not just physical cash. It's also people.
It's people.
It's also people because I mean you can have all the wealth in the world, but if you don't have people as those resources, it will still cripple you to an extent because people are the ones that will take your name to those places. when you meet certain people, they are the ones that would let you know that, oh, fine, I have someone that can do this, I have someone that can do that. And in everybody's journey of success, they have those people that they'll just be like, oh, this person referred me to this thing, this person helped me get this and other things like that. So I think, everything all works together. Right? Have a spiritual side to it. That helps your discernment. And for your timing, right? You must always be ready for opportunities. I watched a video on Instagram, and the person likened it to being a footballer on a pitch, where a person's leg could touch the ball maybe just 2 minutes on the field, right? And the person is still a playmaker, which is how you should position yourself in life as well. Be ready to receive the ball anytime. Don't just assume that, oh, maybe because the ball doesn't come to you. You have to be prepared as though the ball is coming to you. So whenever it comes, you know how to leverage it and make a very good advantage on it.
Awesome. I love the way the perspective you came from. Opportunity, like we used to say, meet the prepared.
True.
So once you meet the prepared, we can turn to magic anytime. Can do anything with it. So I think it's very important as believers, as creative, to ensure that we pay attention to those things. There are several opportunities that I've gotten, several transactions, like business transactions I've had, like I didn't prepare for them. Like I already have those resources there.
Yeah, but you're not expecting
I wasn't expecting them to put them. So they came. I think it's something very important as creative to ensure we pay attention to who we are. Let me just put it that way. And then if you look at the scripture, just go a bit into it, consider the New Testament and all of that. Little wonder Apostle Paul wrote a lot. I mean, most of the New Testament, because he was trained. True. There was a level of preparedness, there was a level of advanced, training, and he had to do that helped him to also achieve some of those things. So it's something very important that we have to pay attention to. Mindset shift, connecting all of what you've been saying, the last couple of things you've been saying, so that, you are TedX licensee. You organized TedX Mokola last year. So how did that came to being?
TedX is primarily an event that brings people together to share ideas. Well, the X there means independently organized.
Okay.
So it's primarily anchored by TED, which is like the mother brand. So TedX is more like when you want to organize it, locally, maybe within your community, within your state. And I mean, anybody can get a license, as a matter of fact, if you're able to, talk about, where you want to do it and the reason for doing it. And my primary goal for organizing, TedX Mokola Road was primarily to bring people together, in Ibadan, and even some from outside Ibadan. But the primary target audience for the reception of that information was, people in Ibadan. And I mean, apart from being a brand and media specialist, I also enjoy creating events. As a matter of fact, I've created a number of events in Ibadan where, I manage the strategic part, the organizing of the event, at least mentally, drawing a map of the event. I enjoy doing, stuff like that. It feels like strategy to me, so it's much fun. And TEDx was just to put that into action, bring people together, share ideas, because I think ideas basically have the power to change the world.
Definitely.
It's a singular statement from someone could literally change the trajectory of your life. In that sense, and I believe so much in the power of that. And that's why, events like TEDx are very important. You can see a lot of TEDx, events online. You can check online. You'll find a number of talks that can literally give you a perspective shift. And, the more talks like that compound, it helps you it puts you on a very good trajectory in that sense.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Really, I can see all the amazing work you're doing. And I must say, I appreciate you and I celebrate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing part of your uniqueness with us today. So looking at all of these areas of life, being a creative, being an entrepreneur, being organizing events and all that, how do you, because I know you also as a father, how do you balance life, work, everything with fatherhood? Maybe you share me some of it I can take home.
Okay, so I think The balance is a myth. I think the balance is a myth. There is really no such thing as a perfect balance. I think when you say balance, it means that it's maybe perfectly even.
Yeah.
So this is getting enough attention, this is getting enough attention and likes of that.
Yeah.
So I don't really think there is a fair balance. But I think as human beings, you just need to be fair.
Yeah.
And you also need to make sure that nothing is lacking.
Yeah.
Right. I think family is the bedrock of society, and to a very good extent, it should not lack, regardless of any other thing you are doing.
Yeah.
I just try to make sure that there is a fair balance.
Yeah.
I don't think there is anything such as a perfect balance.
Yeah.
But I think it's very important to make sure that none is lacking. Family being the priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also my perspective about that, right? So it's important that you just know how to, put things where they belong, and you pay attention as much as possible. Yeah, that's cool. So we are now getting to the end of the session, and I have just some quick Firechats outro question for you.
Okay.
So if you are a creative entrepreneur, what will you be doing?
Maybe a musician.
Oh.
Probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think we had that in common. If you ask my wife, if you wake up from sleep, if I'm not a designer or a creative, she'll tell you music.
Right now, I love music.
Yeah.
I mean, I love music a lot.
It's actually also it's a major part of my work.
Yeah.
I listen to different genre of music. I have playlists like
wow,
I'm telling you. So
amazing.
oh, that's so good to hear, really.
Yeah.
Okay, so then are you a morning person or a night person?
It depends on where the work meets me. Honestly, I mean, I could wake up like as early as 5 a.m. and I will start working.
Yeah.
And sometimes I could wake up maybe I could work late night. To be very honest, I don't know which kind of person I am. I just somewhat do the work as soon as the work comes.
Yeah.
Although I think sometimes whenever I'm working, especially when it comes to creating, maybe coming up with a plan, coming up with a strategy, I don't like to be disturbed. So I like my private space, when doing that. So whether it's in the morning or in the night, I just want to be, left alone by myself. I think it also comes from I like to have original ideas. So even when it comes to listening to people's opinions sometimes, I can be stubborn, because I think in this time and age, if you don't have rigid ideas or standards of your own, every dictum and average is just going to keep putting stuffs in your head, ideas in your head. So I think sometimes whenever I'm creating something, I like it to be original. So I like to just be by myself. So I think that's the only thing. But whether it's in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the night, right? I mean, I can function, I guess.
And get to the flow.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what's one word I can describe your journey so far? One word.
God, I beg. All right, lighter mood. What's the word now? Let's just say grace.
Grace.
Yeah, I mean, I just thank God. I don't usually think I'm the smartest, right? Or the brightest. I just thank God, really, because I mean, almost everything I do, I've met people that are like much better at it than myself. And I'm just thankful to God.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The grace man. So what's the best advice you've ever received, and who gave it to you?
Best advice. It was from a madman. I'm kidding. There's that trend online.
Really?
Okay, so I think it would most likely be quantum leaping. Weird, right?
Wow.
Quantum leaping. Do you want me to explain, or we should move on?
Tell us a bit about that.
Do you believe in the multiverse? The concept of the multiverse. It simply means that for every universe that exists, there's like a second version of you somewhere else, that looks exactly like you.
I've read a bit about
it. So for every decision you make, for example, if we did not have this podcast, there is another universe where we did not have this podcast. There's another universe where probably I came super early for this podcast. I know I was late, by the way, but there's another version where just multiple versions, and they are existing concurrently. And it might seem like a huge data set when you're like, for every tiny decision you did not make, there's another universe that formed. But in the larger scope of things, I think it's very possible, because I mean, no matter the amount of mathematics we think we know, there is still more of an advanced level of it. And that's because at the same time we see things in, you know, the 3D perspective. Right, I didn't want to go into this, but since you said I should get into it, we see things in a 3D perspective, but it doesn't mean the 4D, the 5D does not exist. It just means that we can only see based on our current perception of it. So what quantum leaping primarily means is you somewhat assuming a state of being even without being there. It's you assuming a state of being without you being there. It helps branding as well, because when you're trying to brand an organization, you are like thinking about the organization from a futuristic point of view, like the organization being where it is, and you now gradually, you know, gravitating towards that result. And I think as human beings, it helps a lot for you to know where you want to be. You like setting goals, and you knowing that, okay, fine, I've achieved this goal. I'm just gravitating towards that goal. So that's what quantum leaping really, really means. It means you assuming the state of yourself that has already achieved, you know, that particular level of success, and you gravitating towards that. So unconsciously, it's like a frequency that you are trying to align yourself with. I could explain the concept of, you know, time being that, you know, things already exist. We are just basically flowing through it. So time is solid. We are just the ones living through time in that. So if you look at it in that perspective, it helps you to understand that who you want to be already exists. And who you could be if you take the wrong decisions already exists. So it's better for you to somewhat cling on to who you want to be and gradually gravitate towards that person. I hope I've not muddled up together.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. All right. So 2 more. What are you afraid of? You've been afraid of, and you're actually doing, anyways.
Maybe following my passion. Yeah, I mean, I've always liked the creative stuff. Right. I mean, I could easily do a food business, but I'm not really passionate about that. And of course, there is still this perception of you need to do what makes the money rather than clinging on to what you love. But
people
for
say
some,
passion
doesn't
pay the
bills. In that sense. But I'm somewhat doing what I enjoy doing, you know, what I'm passionate about, which is, you know, branding, media, the creative stuff. And I'm just hoping that, you know, it pays, you know, in the way I want.
It's already paying you, obviously.
Amen to that.
Oh wow, that's cool. And I think we aligned that same way, you know, because there were fears, you know, can this work? Will this work? Will this not work? But to be honest, I think for me, I love doing what I'm doing, and the more I do it, the more confidence I get, and I see reward for it, and that's very interesting.
Amazing. Hopefully, we'll get to your stage soon. You know, really soon.
Okay, let's just go to the last one. Okay, one thing you want everyone listening to these episodes to do. What's one thing?
In just 5-letter words, learn. Just keep learning. Honestly, keep learning. And as you're learning, take actionable steps. Right, don't just learn and you just keep your learning in one side. Learn. Don't be afraid to develop yourself. Somebody on Okoya, he says this a lot. You can do great things from a small place. Right, with just your phone. Then in fact, there are so many amazing things you can do. You can build websites on your phone. Right, you can build apps on your phone. Do you understand? Some phones that we own that doesn't seem so powerful. There are so many amazing things you can do, but you will never really know the possibilities if you don't start learning. So my advice to everyone is learn something, like pick up something, be curious, right? Be curious and surround yourself with the right people. Surround yourself with the right people. I mean, as you're learning, don't now keep being in the environment of people that are very complacent about learning. There are certain people that the moment you are going in an upward trajectory, they are right there to pull you right back because they've not really achieved that frequency of growth, but you know what you're chasing. So it's important that you make sure that as you're learning, you surround yourself with the right people, with the right minds. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Trust me. To transition is hard, but the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Awesome. Keep learning, surround yourself with, you know, the right people. People used to say that, you know, if you look around you and you can count like 4 fools, you know, you didn't count well. You are the 5th person. So So if you can count good, wise people, that means you also, yeah. So work with the wise, you will be wise. Yeah, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, really, for joining me today.
Thank you for
It's
having
been
me.
an interesting one. It's been an enlightening one for me as well.
Thank you so
I got to know
much.
you better. I got to hear from your word of wisdom. You know.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
How can people connect with you? How can people find you? Where can they find you? Maybe just share with us.
You can connect with me through my website.
Yeah.
That's the Somidee.com. TheSomidee.com. You'll probably see it on the screen.
Yeah.
So you can connect with me there. It has my social profiles.
Yeah.
It has projects that I've done.
Yeah.
So you just need to visit that link and you're going to connect with me. I look forward to connecting with everyone.
Yeah. All right, awesome. So we have something from you from the Kingly podcast.
Oh, thank you so
it's
much.
good to have it here today.
Is it dollars?
In coming episodes, to be honest, we'd like to bring you on this podcast again.
Okay.
We'll look forward to having you. Maybe when you come, we'll be able to spray you some of those dollars.
No, don't spray it. Put it inside.
All right, so we have
Thank
this
you
for
so
you
much.
from the Kingly pod.
Thank you so much.
Remember your royalty, and that's for everyone.
Thank you.
Don't forget to live big as a king. He's a king, obviously, you see.
Thank you so much.
As a king that you are.
Thank you
it's
so
good
much.
to have you here.
Likewise. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, listeners. Thank you. See you in the next one.